All right, let's go ahead and get started with our main conversation. I want to thank you all for joining us for the Newsroom at Home webinar. My name is Charnel Ross, and I am the Marketing Manager at Bay Area News Group. We'll start the conversation shortly, but before we get started, I wanted to go over some housekeeping notes with you all. If you'd like to ask questions during the webinar, please use the Q&A feature found on your Zoom toolbar at the bottom. We'll try and get to all the questions at the end of the conversation. If you have any comments, please use the chat feature. We definitely would love to hear any comments that you have for us. We'd also like to invite you to our next event. It'll be Education in the Bay Area, and it's held on September 10th, right here on Zoom at 10 a.m. You can find your registration links at mercurynews.com/events or eastbaytimes.com/events. Now, let me introduce you to our host, Bay Area News Group's Eat, Drink, Play writer and editor, Jessica Yatagaran.
Thanks, Charnel. Hi, everyone. I'm super stoked to be here today. A quick bit about me. I've been in the Bay Area a total of 15 years. I first caught the food and wine bug at one of my first jobs after college. I was a reporter at the local paper in San Luis Obispo, the Tribune. And I was lucky enough to have the entire Central Coast as my veritable, classroom, really. From Santa Maria to Paso Robles. I joined the then Contra Costa Times in 2004 and came on predominantly as a food and wine writer and critic. For those of you who are familiar with the section, it's evolved over the years to include beer and spirits and kombucha, travel, and mostly how to get out and enjoy our great region, things to do. Along with my colleague, Linda Zavarol, and our editor, Jackie Burrell, we really have a fun time collaborating and helping you discover this great region. So moving on, I'm going to introduce our guests who are with us today, and I'll be asking some questions of them about their family business and the industry. Then I'm going to turn it over to them to lead a tasting of their three of their best-selling wines. We'll also have time for questions from you readers at the end of the conversation. So to begin, certainly Wente Vineyards needs no introduction. They're based here in the Livermore Valley, and it is the longest continuously operated family-owned winery in the country. They're also a pioneer in premium Chardonnay growing. Today we have with us fifth-generation wine growers, Aly and Nikki, who are sisters. They work in different parts of the business. Aly is the company's senior brand manager, so she works in marketing predominantly and holds a level 3 advanced certification in wine with the prestigious Wine and Spirits Education Trust. Nikki, on the left, is one of Wente's viticulture managers, and she oversees vineyard operations in Monterey's Arroyo Seco region, where they grow the Pinot Noir that goes into my favorite rosé, and we're going to get to taste that today. So welcome, Aly and Nikki.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, absolutely. I guess we'll just go into one of our first questions here. Of course, it goes without saying that you both grew up in the wine industry, but when did you become actively involved and know that you wanted to join the business? Was there like an aha moment for each of you?
I think for me, I'll start first. Nikki's is a little more linear than mine. I will say that I grew up, in a small town with Wente as a family business, and I was a stubborn young lady who really wanted to make my own name, didn't, want anyone to decide a career for me. And I went to school for journalism, and I wanted to be like a TV anchor. That was my dream goal. Yeah. So lots of love for the Central Coast. We're both Cal Poly graduates. Yeah. And actually all of our wines are from the Central Coast. Livermore is a part of the Central Coast as well. So for me, I spent a few years in actually working in land development, which I found out, after a tough internship and a hard time getting a job, that maybe journalism wasn't exactly for me.
Right.
So I, wound up working in a different industry, which was fun, and I learned a lot. And, I spent a lot of time after that thinking, okay, this isn't the right industry for me, but what is? And I really kind of like played a lot around with what I loved. And then I said, why am I fighting this? A passion and a hobby of mine is wine and enjoying wine and cooking and life. And that really is kind of like what wine is all about. And so also took an interview with a really amazing woman named Michelle Perry. And she, then hired me to work for her in the wine industry. So it wasn't yet for my family's company, but that's kind of what led me back, was just this feeling of like, why am I fighting this? Finally feeling like this is actually a true love. Yeah. And then finding someone really inspiring to work for. And now I have, found my way back home, so to say.
And it's interesting and important, I think, to mention that you guys didn't just, they didn't just create these jobs for you. You really had to earn your place, work elsewhere, apply.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Family rules, we made like kind of guidelines. Because when it's three people, my aunt, my uncle, and my father, it's really easy to manage a business that way. But when you start adding all the kids, then it gets more complicated. So they made guidelines that they'd like us to work somewhere else for at least 3 to 5 years. And then they also said that they won't hire you just because you're ready. You have to wait until there's a position open.
You have to be the best suited person for that position.
Right. If someone is better than you, they will get the job.
At the end of the day, it's still a business, and we need to succeed.
Right.
We've been around for 137 years, but it's like, how do we continue it on?
Yeah.
So that's super important. But your story.
Respect.
Yeah. I was the little tomboy when I was young, and my father, Phil Wente, was the vineyard manager. And so I followed him around the vineyards a lot, and I loved being outdoors. I was very hyper.
This is our hyper.
Yeah, hard to keep me seated. So
what was your nickname?
My middle name is Piper, so everyone called me Hyper Piper.
Oh, that's really great. But didn't you say your dad called you something that wasn't that complimentary?
He called me petulant.
Yeah.
He loves me, but I definitely followed him, and I probably gave him one too many flat tires,
Aww.
But as soon as I could realize that, like, oh, this could be a career for me, I was probably 12. Like, I was really young.
Wow.
And I actually decided at a very young age, I was either in 7th or 8th grade, that I wanted to go to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I wanted to study wine and viticulture. As soon as they created the program, I was like basically dialed in. And then
that is so geeky and cute.
Yeah, I'm very geeky. My dad's like, it's a lot of science. And I'm like, I'm good at science, good at math. Throw it at me.
Math, okay, science.
Yeah. So I was pretty easy and knew what I wanted to do. I did take a year break and worked in San Francisco after college in tech, just to
for a year of rebellion, is what we call it.
My year of rebellion.
Wow, that's so rebellious.
Yeah,
so rebellious
in such a Bay Area way. Awesome. So next question. As the newest generation of wine growers in your family business, what are you most proud of bringing to Wente and maybe to the wine industry in general? I mean, you guys have been pioneers in so many areas.
I think that I'm really proud to kind of continue my father's legacy, and I hope every day that I bring his passion and his kindness and his sincerity to work. And I think he was such a great boss and leader, and like people still talk about him in the vineyards because we have many employees that have been in employment with us for over 40 years.
Wow.
I think our longest right now is his 47th harvest, which is
Julio Covarrubias. I can never say his last name.
Yeah, Covarrubias.
Covarrubias, yes.
Yeah.
He's been around forever.
And actually my boss, Keith Roberts, has also been with us for 47 years. Wow. So really cool. He was down in our Greenfield Arroyo Seco property for those years. And now he comes both locations, as do I, Livermore and to Arroyo Seco, back and forth, which is always fun, a lot of driving. But I think that just kind of keeping that passion alive is super important. I'm also really proud of all of the different new technologies, new equipment, new understanding of how to farm based on our temperature and sustainably farm. You know, I think that's super important, and I'm super proud to be a part of the team that's kind of driving forward with new efficiencies and working towards automation and driverless tractors and all of those really cool things that are the future of the industry. So those are, I think the passion's the most important. You know, it's all about people and making your people inspired to work there. And I think of my coworkers as family. And so keeping them inspired and thinking that I'm a part of their family too is really what is the lifeblood of Wente Vineyards.
And I think that when Nikki was talking about, you know, how we've had people who've been there for 47 years, you know, I think I have more recently come to the business about a year ago. And I think what surprised me and kind of like warmed my soul, because I came from a very different place, was that many people, you know, who work for the family, whether it's been 1 year, 5 years, or 47 years, say that they're part of the family. And so it's kind of funny, like we all, sometimes in marketing, right, we'll be like, okay, well, we need a photo shoot with the family. And then people will joke like, okay, well, how are we going to get that many people in a photo? So it's just like, it's like cute and feel good. And I think that's super fun, like culture that we have going on.
Aly, what are you most proud of bringing to the forefront? I mean, think about how different it is these days, you know, what you were talking about with, you know, why we drink wine, how we drink wine, where we drink wine. All of that has changed so much, and reaching your community through social media the way you guys do.
It is. Yeah. I think, you know, I've been with the company for about a year, and my gosh, what a year. And so I think like maybe like, let's change it to a little bit. What am I most proud of? I'm really proud of the way that, my team has adapted so quickly to the changing environment over, you know, since March. Like I've never seen a team be so agile, so devoted, so passionate and excited to think differently about our business, which was so critical over the past few months. And so that has been really exciting and something I'm very proud of too, like really been a part of and really driving some really interesting and innovations, and first to the wine industry with our, we have a tasting that anyone can do if you have a Google or an Amazon Alexa, Google Home or Amazon Alexa now, as a new way to engage with customers. So a super cool project that we worked on. But I think what am I most excited about? I think it's just like what Nikki was saying, like inspiring people, creating a really amazing place to work. And I think I have a lot of what my dad has. I like to think so big, like my dreams and hopes and aspirations for the business, like can't even be in the house I'm in right now. There's too much. So I'm really excited to bring that passion back into the brands. We have more than one brand, and to keep, you know, continue us on forward.
The pivot you were talking about that you're so proud of your team doing, can you speak a little bit more about that? Do you mean, is this different from the Wine Wednesdays that people can join?
It was definitely, Wine Wednesdays were definitely a part of that.
Okay.
So we weren't doing that before. Nikki and I, you know, I think it was like the week shelter in place started.
Because we had to close our doors, we're like, okay, well, how do we make people feel as though they can still come and have a tasting with us?
Right. And scary, uncertain, dark times, it's like, how do we bring warmth and familiarity and
a lightness,
entertainment?
And it was such a hit the first week that they're like, you're going to do it forever. And we were like, oh gosh, what have we done? So does this come with like unlimited wine forever? Because it feels like I need to be compensated.
No, I mean, we like joke, we're like stand-up comedians part-time.
I'm like, going to Hollywood. I got my ticket.
Yeah, well, you guys have such an easy rapport. I mean, thank goodness you get along so well.
Right. Not all the time.
Let's see. Our next question says, obviously Wente is synonymous with Chardonnay. and not just one. Your cousin and head winemaker Carl makes 4 styles, if I'm not mistaken, and we're lucky enough to be tasting 2 of them. Do you want to just briefly talk about the differences between the Chardonnays? I know you want to save a lot of that for the wine discussion, but maybe just for the tasting discussion, but maybe just for people that aren't maybe familiar.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So our Eric Chardonnay is going to be really crisp, lean, and it's stainless steel fermented. So that means it has no oak influence. That oak allows some oxygen to transfer in and out, which gives it a bigger, rounder feel. So when you have no oak, it definitely has that cleaner, nicer, beautiful acid that's going to kind of chase after that Sauv Blanc-esque style.
Exactly.
And then our morning.
So this is the one end of the spectrum.
Yeah, one end of the spectrum. Morning Fog is the next like middle step up from this. And we do about 50% stainless steel and 50% oak. So then you get that nice creaminess from the oak and that nice crisp, fresh acidity from the stainless steel. So mixing those together. And we do pick these at different times. So this would be our first pick. And then the Morning Fog is our second pick. The Riva Ranch is our third pick. So that is, we're getting it a little bit riper so that you get more flavor in there. There's more oak. It's about 90% oak. So about 10% stainless steel just to add back some freshness. This is also from a different AVA. The Livermore AVA has Eric's and Morning Fog. And the final, this one's from Arroyo Seco, Monterey. And then the final one is the Nth, which is also from Livermore. The Nth degree Chardonnay. It's all French oak.
Okay.
So 100% oak, 100% French, 50% new. So you're getting a lot of that new fresh oak flavoring.
It's the boldest, biggest flavor.
Correct. Yeah. So that's going to be what for our Chardonnay drinkers that want something special.
Yeah. And I think Chardonnay is really important to our brand history and just like our history as a family planting Chardonnay from the early 1900s. And we love Chardonnay, and there's a Chardonnay drinker for every one of these different styles, right? We were talking earlier about, how consumer style preferences and flavor preferences change. Some people prefer a really big, rich, round Chardonnay. Well, we have that. Some people prefer one that is so clean and pure, and we have that too, and we have everything in between. So,
it's so
we celebrate
true.
Chardonnay here.
Yes.
When I first got into wine, I remember I would poo-poo the bigger, bolder, oakier, butterier flavors. And then, I would stick to those lean, unoaked styles. And I was like, wait, this kind of tastes like Sauvignon Blanc. And then I went back to the oaky style, especially if I was eating like, I don't know, crab or, certain things that I was eating that I was like, I just really want that. I craved it. So it's good to represent everybody. One reader wants to know, so you're so well known for Chardonnay. How much do you do with, say, white blends? Any Roussanne or Marsanne or other varietals?
So we used to do a Roussanne Marsanne blend maybe in like 98, 2000. And it was fabulous, if I do say so myself. My dad had a bottle that he shared with me when I was younger.
Nice.
Maybe 21, wink, wink. But now we do some white blends, not for the Wente Vineyards brand, but for our Myriad as Well brand. We have some beautiful wine, or some beautiful fruit. We have Malvasia Bianca, we have Semillon, we have Muscat Canelli, we have Orange Muscat, we have Viognier, and we blend all those together and make something really special. But for our Wente Vineyards labels, we don't do any white blends right now.
Okay. I'm sorry. Did you say that's for Myriad as well?
Correct.
That? I got married there. Sorry.
So did our
Plug
parents.
I love that winery so much.
So pretty.
Okay. One of our readers wants to know, when will you be opening tasting rooms? Will Winemaker's Studio be back with all its great wine ambassadors?
Oh my goodness. Thank you for asking. We have definitely, been slower to open, and at this time we don't have a date for opening. And I think we're really focused on the health and and safety and well-being of all of our employees and guests. And I think we are constantly trying to understand, you know, when the regulations might change or lighten up so that we're able to host a tasting experience that we're really proud of. Because I think at the end of the day, we really want to be proud and certain in the experience that we're offering everyone who comes to property. And so I think that's another thing we're thinking about. So it's on the horizon, I hope. I know this has really been a crazy year. We hope so. And, you know, I think we might be doing some local, we might be opening for just like retail sales, more of like a curbside pickup versus an actual tasting experience soon. So more to come on that. And if you subscribe to our emails, you will get the first notification once that happens.
How do you subscribe to the emails?
Just on our website. If you go on our website, I think something should pop up that will have that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It says like enter your email here to subscribe, and then you just like enter your email, press subscribe.
One reader wants to know, many years ago, my favorite white was your gray Riesling. Why was this discontinued?
We always get this one.
Wait, I have to get it.
You have it?
Well, no, I have the frame.
She has a frame. So the gray Riesling happened a while ago, a long time ago, and it's so funny. We became known. Oh, Nikki has the label.
This is our. It's hard to see, but this is our 1945 gray Riesling label.
That's cool.
Yeah, there you go.
And I got it framed and put it up in our house because I love it so much. I would love to bring it back. So if I have any say, I will be bringing this back.
I know, it's so funny that it was planted a long time ago, but it is one of the wines that everyone really remembers.
Well, yeah, a good Riesling is like pure magic. I mean, wow, that's awesome. Let's see. Another reader wants to know what's happening in the vineyards right now. Has harvest begun?
Yes. So we have harvested for Eric Chardonnay. So the Chardonnay that we'll be trying first today. And we have harvested a little bit of Sauvignon Blanc and a little bit for sparkling wine. So yeah, so we have like it's starting, it really is. So we are probably gonna start like full blown harvest on Monday.
Wow.
And we're really excited about it. The fires are kind of getting a little scary around us, so we're trying to just stay positive and make sure that we're keeping our workers safe during the time, because if the air quality gets above 200 air quality index, we don't want anyone outside. So
are you concerned at this point about smoke taint or anything?
Not for any white wines. It depends how long the fires go. So we're just going to keep monitoring it. We have awesome laboratories that we can send the grapes into. And we also are able to combat in the field by adding things like copper. And so there's a lot of different ways that we can really like make our grapes stronger in order to make sure that we don't get smoke taint. So, and we also are able to run like air blasters through the vineyard. So if there's any sort of soot or something that's fallen from the sky, you get that out of there, and then you don't have any off flavors in the wine from sitting in ash. So we've done pretty much everything to try and make sure that our grapes are clean and beautiful, and the smoke is not bad in Livermore. So we are doing really well.
I noticed that. It's so interesting. You hear so much, and I've been reporting so much about on fireproofing properties, but I hadn't known so much about these other things you're speaking of, is actually fireproofing or revert, I don't know, the juice itself and the grapes, and that's really cool.
It's all about thick skin. If the grapes have a strong skin, then you're not going to get smoke taint, which is really great for Cabernet Sauvignons because they're one of the thickest skins out of every variety. So, and they're also one of our latest picks. So if the fires do continue on, they'll be in the smoke the longest, but they're the strongest against it. So
something like a thin-skinned Pinot Noir would be more concern.
I would be more nervous about Pinot Noir, Petit Verdot, but those are just blenders. They're not, or excuse me, Petit Verdot is just a blender, so that one's not super vital anywhere. Which we make one Petit Verdot for Myriad as well. That's a standalone, but our Pinot Noir, we are just kind of watching it every day, making sure that we're on top of everything, and we're not very worried right now, but we are going to take every precaution that we can.
Wonderful. Well, we're keeping you guys in our thoughts, and your delicious wines. You know, perfect timing. I think we're going to transition now into the tasting. Awesome. Hopefully everybody has their glasses ready. And I'm just going to hand it over to you guys.
Perfect. Well, we are starting with my baby. So again, thank you guys for joining us. And I know Jessica has mentioned that she loves this wine, so I'm glad to hear it. So this wine is our Nikki's Rosé, and it's named after me because I was able to make it. So it's something super fun for me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know Carl signs all the bottles, but this was my baby.
That's so cool. Are you okay?
Yeah.
I'll ask you later. I was going to ask you, are you going to be making more wine? But you do your thing.
Yeah. So I was actually able to make my first vintage in 2018. So this is my second vintage. Yeah, and so it's very fun and special for me. We really got the idea behind the Nikki's Rosé because of Eric's Chardonnay. It was already a line item, and the family was talking about redoing our rosé, and they're like, what do we want to do? I had joined the business about a year prior, and I was like, we could do something like Eric's and make it a family member's name. And everyone knows Pinot Noir is my favorite red. So they were like, well, we're making a Pinot Noir rosé, and you love Pinot Noir. So maybe this should be a Nikki's. And I was like, well, if you're going to give me the chance, I will take it. Because I've always been interested in winemaking, even though my job is primarily in the vineyards. So anyways, very fun for me. I was shooting for something really beautifully light, pale in color, and I wanted it to be very floral, very pretty on the nose. I want a little bit of fruit on the nose too.
Look at that color. Look how
I know, almost clear.
It's perfect. I judge my rosé like even before I sniff it or anything by the color.
Yeah,
I know the color is so important to me as well when I'm shopping for rosé, so that's why I really made that one of my first things. Yeah. Blending is super fun. I was able to do multiple picks because we do make other rosés for different brands, and we sell some rosé in bulk as well. So I was able to kind of make a lot of different picks from the vineyard and store those all in different stainless steel tanks. So that I was able to blend and make a blend to get the right color that I wanted. So that was another really fun thing that I got to do, which a lot of people don't get to do. So I think I'm very fortunate in the fact that I was able to kind of have that opportunity. And then you really focus on the floral and flavor and profile. I wanted it to have body. I didn't want it to be so thin that you're just drinking like a glass of acid. So I wanted it to have a little bit of weight in the palate, but I didn't want it to be overly rich or anything. I wanted that fresh acidity. I wanted it to be one of those drinks you go to on a cool summer day or a warm summer day, excuse me. And I also wanted it to be something you could have with Thanksgiving turkey, because I don't know why rosé screams Thanksgiving turkey to me. Like turkey and gravy, I'm like, sign this rosé up.
Oh yeah, we go through bottles of rosé, yeah. sparkling rosé too.
Absolutely.
Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm.
Super good. And I think for this, like, it's funny, like we have our tasting room favorites because Nikki's and Eric's are tasting room wines. So they're not wines that we really sell broadly. We do a little bit of Eric's more than Nikki's, and Nikki's will give to some restaurants, but it's mostly just available on our website or at the tasting room. And I'll say like this one, since we made it Nikki's, has just like such a bigger following than it ever had before.
She means since Nikki started making it.
Yeah.
Since Nikki's an excellent winemaker.
I don't like to give her that much credit normally, so I'm going to stick with what I said originally.
Stick with my original comment.
I remember when I went to the restaurant when it first opened, I feel like Nikki's rosé was like the whole wall.
Yeah.
Those bottles.
I know. I loved that too. I was like, you can just walk up and grab yourself one, and then ask
grab
them
it. It's like wall art, and
I know.
Sustenance.
Quickly, that was no longer the case. They're like, okay, we got to move this down. People are buying it, which I'm happy about too. Heck, buy my wine. But I really do. It was such a pleasure and an honor to be able to make it, especially because I'm not a part of the winemaking team. So the fact that they graciously let me in, they taught me the ropes, allowed me to be a part of the process, was really, really special. And I look forward to many more years of making it, as long as they don't kick me out.
There you go.
I'm very polite so that they don't get annoyed at me.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if anyone has the wine and you want to taste along with us.
Yeah, everybody get your wine and give it a little sniffy sniff.
Yeah, give it a sip, give it a sniff. You get a lot of like really beautiful fruit flavors, little strawberry. I get like
little
melon.
cantaloupe.
Yeah, cantaloupe, melon.
Yep.
But
But
really
then you get
vibrant.
like a white or blue floral. I don't know how to
Yeah,
explain it. Like a beautiful white flower that you just stick your nose into, and that's like that compelling scent for me that really makes me excited about a rosé, is just getting a little bit of that floral note in there.
Yeah, and I think you get like a juiciness on the palate too. Like
Mhm.
Nikki said, it's not super linear. Like it has body. You get a richness. It kind of like goes from the front to the back of your palate and then fills your mouth back up again.
Right.
So it's really like lovely the way it fills out.
Yeah, and like a little bit of acid that makes your mouth kind of water, and you
Tingle.
want a little bit more.
Yep.
Which, special wine. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. It is from our Arroyo Seco Vineyards. It's made from a few different types of or clones of Pinot Noir. So there's a lot of different genetic diversity within one variety, as such as Pinot Noir. So we have a lot of different clones, which is what the genetic varieties are called, planted in our Arroyo Seco Vineyard. And it's really fun to be able to work with them, because the reason they're genetically variable is because they have different flavor profiles, they have different cluster sizes, they have different growth profiles. So you're going to see a different plant, even though it is the same variety at the end of the day. So really fun to be able to play with Pinot Noir. I love the variety myself, and Chardonnay is actually a close relative of Pinot Noir. So makes
that's
sense why I love them both.
I want to remind our readers that if anybody wants to ask any questions, as Aly and Nikki are leading the tasting, you're more than welcome to. If you want to know what you to pair this wine with, if you want to know what it retails for, anything, just feel free to chime in on the in the chat area, and we'll get to your questions.
Everything's on the table. Fire them at us. You have us here.
I know, right?
It doesn't even just have to be about the wine. We'll answer whatever. So,
Yeah.
let us know for sure.
I mean, I pair this with pretty much everything, including Thanksgiving turkey.
I mean, it's wild.
Oh yeah, or like truffle potato chips. I mean, anything's on the table for me.
Mm-hmm.
I know my coworker, one of our winemakers, is like, I had your wine for my birthday with funfetti cake, and it was the best.
Oh.
And I was like, I will have to try that, because I myself am a cake fanatic.
Nikki's a sweetaholic.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it does
Funfetti.
really just depend on your own personal preference. Isn't that, so much about pairing is, there are some basics to follow,
Right.
but for the most part, it's really what you prefer, what you eat, when, what season,
Totally.
I saw a funny comment pop up a second ago.
What was it?
And it said, is Carl a better guitarist or a winemaker?
Oh.
Ooh, that's a
He's
tough
not
one.
here, so we can say whatever we want.
I think he's a better winemaker. I'm going to say it. He is gifted at winemaking. His guitar game is strong, but
It is.
he learned that on his own, though.
Yeah, he really taught himself.
Oh,
a
I
lot.
miss those concerts too. What was that
The
like?
front porch.
Front Porch series he did. That thing
Yeah.
was killer.
It was so fun. I know. And it's coming up here, the weekend, Labor Day weekend, and we won't get to have it. But
Okay,
wondering someday.
Nikki, you have two questions.
Okay.
One person says, I just simply want to compliment Nikki. I'm not normally a fan of rosé, but this is really good.
Oh, thank you.
Another person wants to know, can they get it through wine.com or Total Wine?
You might be able to get Eric's through Total.
I don't think so.
Yeah, actually, I think you can get Eric's through Total,
But not Nikki's. You
But
can
you can
get
get it through our website.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we often run promotions, like shipping deals. I think we have like a $5 flat rate shipping if you're in California.
I saw that. On your
yeah.
So just look at the website, see if there are any deals. I know at one point you guys were doing like 20% off or something.
Yeah, we were trying to make it easy for everyone while, all of the craziness was happening earlier this year. But actually, I think we are going to be kicking off a Nikki's and Eric's specific program in a couple of weeks. So if you really like it and you want to hold out, or if you want to get some now and then order more, that's the best.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody else wants to know, vintage is 2019. Seems
This is the
young.
19.
Question mark, question mark.
is this young. So with rosé, oftentimes people say drink it within the year. So before the 2020 is released, you would want to finish this rosé. I personally don't feel the same. I think that all wine gets better, or not necessarily better. I think all wine evolves, it changes. So I personally love to keep a wine. I think rosé at 2 years old is wonderful.
Okay.
I think rosé at 1 year old is wonderful. I think rosé at 6 months old is wonderful, but they're so different. This wine has developed so much from 6 months from the bottle date, you know, and I think that it's your preference.
Personal preference.
I
always.
just can't hold on to my rosé that long. Like,
I know it's
just
hard.
gone.
It's really hard. But I even just had, I think it was a Lyoko rosé from Sonoma, and it was delicious, and it was 2 years old, and I was like, wow, this tastes way different than the one that I had that was the same vintage. So I think it's buy a couple bottles and test it out, because then you really figure out what your preference is. I actually just did a tasting of Nikki's Rosé 2018, and I couldn't even taste with the group because they all had the 18 and I had the 19, because we sold it to a restaurant out east, and they did a at-home tasting food and wine pairing for a bunch of their customers, and so they were all drinking the 18 because the wine buyer was like, I love older rosés. And I'm like, I get it.
Wonderful. Why don't we move on to the next wine, you guys, and we'll make sure to get in some of these questions.
Perfect. So the next wine is Eric's Chardonnay. So I know Nikki did talk about it a little bit earlier, but this wine was really inspired. Our Uncle Eric really loves a pure expression of Chardonnay. So he's the opposite end of the spectrum, right, where you have the really oaky Chardonnay lovers, and then you have the purists. And I would say he is more of that purist type. He loves like a Burgundian Chardonnay. And so he really was like pushing the winemaking team to come up with a different style. He really loved this one, and they said, okay, well, let's just call it Eric's then. It's yours. You love it. We're making it for you.
Yeah, no, it's actually really fun. This year that they decided to try and make Eric's, they were doing like a winemaking competition within all the interns. So everyone that started working for us, they all got like, I think it was like 2 or 3 tons of grapes, and they had to make something with it, like make a specific style and like go with it. And so there was like, I think 5 different people in this experiment where they were just trying to make something new. And Eric came in and he's like, why not try a Chablis style? And his son was like, oh. Carl was like, oh, I guess we could. So one of the interns took on that job, and it turned out really great. And they're like, okay, we're going to do it.
Yep.
Wonderful.
So we always say that this one's like if you took the grape right off of the vine and pressed it and made Chardonnay, this is what Chardonnay tastes like.
Yeah, like this is what the variety tastes like off the vine.
In its pure form. Wow.
Yeah. So I love this wine too, because we do stir the lees quite a bit. So you're getting some of that, the dead yeast cells kind of fall to the bottom after fermentation happens. And then when you stir that lees, it gives you a bigger, creamier mouthfeel without having to have that the oak transfer.
You don't need to get it from the oak, right?
Yeah, no ML. Yeah, so no ML in this, no malolactic fermentation, none of that secondary stuff. Just keeping it nice and pure, but was still getting a little bit more body because of stirring all of those dead yeast cells, stirring the lees. And we bottle it quite early, just as we do with the Nikki's, because we're trying to keep it really fresh. We don't want it to age all that long in our vessels. We would rather it age in the bottle, you know. So it's a fun wine, and I think it definitely is for a lot of people, broad spectrum of Chardonnay drinkers. It can please a lot of different people.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and it is actually a single vineyard wine as well, so which also makes it kind of fun. Just came from one vineyard within the Livermore Valley, the Eric Vineyard. Believe it or not, we're very clever with our naming.
What about production? How much of this do you make?
That's a good question. I'm like,
It says it back here, I think.
Does it? I don't think so.
Maybe it says that.
I don't think so.
Not too much of this. I think we make around, I want to say, under 2,000 cases of Eric's, and we probably make like 1,500 of Nikki's.
Yeah. So those are super small production, especially for Wente.
Yeah. And these, I would say, are 2 biggest
small production,
small lot wines.
Yeah.
So limited, we call them limited release. or small lot. And so they, you know, for the tasting room and for online, we make a lot less. But these two, we make more than we do for any of the other wines.
Right.
So they're definitely two of the most popular.
Wonderful. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
if you haven't tasted it yet,
Pick up your glass.
in.
Yeah, and it's fun to look at it, right? Because we're going to move into Riva Ranch next. Look at the color if you have it, or if not, you can see the colors together. This is Eric's. It is much lighter in color than Riva. They are very different styles of Chardonnay. So it'd be really fun to like talk about the differences between the two of them, but you can see the color right off the bat.
Yeah.
Wow.
And a lot of that color comes from that oak contact. It comes from that oxygen that is getting into the Riva Ranch through that transfer in the porous oak. Yeah, so that's the Riva. But on the Eric's, it's just such a crisp, refreshing drink. You get that nice green apple. And it almost goes into a golden apple, but you get a really great acid there. It has a great weight to it because of the leaves that we're stirring.
Almost like a little lemon cream, like a light lemon cream.
Yeah,
You get
totally.
the citrus and the brightness, but it's not overwhelming. It's not like acidic and tart. So you get, and I think that creamy is from the leaves that Nikki was talking about. So when the wine mixes with the leaves, it creates that cream texture and sometimes can produce those aromas and flavors as well.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a question. Well, one of our readers has a question for you guys, kind of speaking about these, you know, kind of French style and Chablis style and stuff. Burgundy and Piedmont have many multi-generational domains and producers like you guys. Some have experienced growing pains when the new generation have challenged old methods. Has Wente faced challenges as new and younger family members have come into the business?
I'd say no, honestly. And maybe Aly says yes. I think no. The fourth generation has actually been very gracious, and my dad took a step back when Carl came in because Carl had big ideas about how to unite winemaking and vineyard operations because he was passionate about both, and my dad was in charge of vineyards, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to step back. I'll be on the board of directors, and I'll let you kind of take the reins. You know, you flow the way that you'd like to. You're the future of the business. And I think that having that kind of mindset and mentality of like, what's best for the business? You guys are going to be the future. I'm not the future, and I'm going to step back. Like that's the way that the fourth generation really is. And I think if we, as the fifth generation, can kind of learn from them and be in the same boat when we have the sixth generation come along, for those that are interested in, again, we're never going to force anyone to be in the wine industry, but like, how could you not?
Right. Well, there seems like there's a lot of trust there. And I don't know the details of these Piemontese domains and stuff, but it's really neat to hear how open your family is to and unafraid of, you know, the prospect of the new generation and stuff.
I think it really goes back to like our family's business model. Really, like every generation has made the business with the intention in mind to pass it on to the next generation. And I think that really helps us as a family have that continuity of vision from generation to generation. We're also a small family, so I don't know how big these, you know.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah, the
you guys are pretty tight.
Yeah.
Right.
So we are, you know, very small, very tight knit. We all live in the same town essentially, aside from one person, two people. And so it's easy to, you know, align. And I think what I found when I came is that because it's different to be in the family and then to work for the business with the family. And so when I came to work for the family, I think really what is underlying for everybody is just like mutual respect. And we all do something different than each other. Like there's a couple people in the same line of career, but they're at different stages in their career.
To that mean, I'm coming for your job, Carl. No, just kidding.
So but it is, I think that does help. There isn't conflict. There are new ideas brought to the table by our generation. In different ways, I think more from like a consumer perspective. What does the consumer want and need, and what consumers are we going after? And we have sometimes a different perspective because we are a part of the demographic of that consumer.
Right.
And so I think, you know, we can open their eyes to something new, but I don't think that there's any conflict ever now.
I think it always goes back to mutual respect. And like, if you're allowed to speak at the table and give your opinions, and that's all that it really takes. Because you don't have to agree with everything that everyone says. And that's kind of the mentality of our family. Like, you don't have to agree all the time, but as long as you respect their opinion, and if it's like, don't be upset that your vote didn't win, and go on with your life, and your next vote probably will win, because, you know, at the end of the day, it's a family business with 9 people now involved. So I think it's great. And also, we always have to go back to the fact that the 3rd generation was just one person.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's true.
yeah, because Herman, Carl, and Ernest, there was only one son produced out of all of them. No daughters, just one child total out of the 3 of them. Interesting.
You guys, I just looked at the clock, and we should get, we need to move on to Riva, it looks like.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
The 3rd and final wine.
Save the best for last. Sorry, Nikki.
Oh,
It's okay. I can take a punch. So this is our Riva Ranch. It is what I like to call the brightest wine that we have on the Chardonnay side, because it has that really refreshing oak, but it also has such beautiful fruit from that long growing season that we get in Arroyo Seco, picking it in October or November, which is very late for Chardonnay. And it's not that we're over ripening it, we're getting it just ripe enough, and then we pull it off the vine and make it into this beautiful wine. Minimal skin contact, you know, get rid of the skins right away, just juice it nicely and get it into oak. Get it into 90% oak. So only 10% of this wine is actually in stainless steel, and that's just to kind of revitalize, bring in some freshness. But the growing season in Arroyo Seco, where this wine is grown, is just so vastly different from Livermore. The fog hangs out in Arroyo Seco until like 1 p.m. most days. So like, even when there's no fires, you can't see the hills for most of the day anyways. And then you get about 1 to 2 hours of real heat, real warmth, and then it goes back to being cool again with really strong winds. And you're right along a river. You have really great, deep, rich, rocky soils. It's just perfect growing climate for Pinot Noir and Chardonnays. And like, this is just exactly what a Chardonnay should taste like from that region. Beautiful tropical fruit, lovely oak addition, because that fruit can stand up to that additional oak. So you're not going to lose all the fruit by having a little bit more oak in there because of that extra growing season, that extra long hang time. I think it's just a spectacular explanation of what California Chardonnay can be, without being that overt oaky kind of turn people away type of California Chardonnay.
okay.
I think what's different about, you'll see, the fruit is different. The fruit flavors that are produced from these wines, the Eric's and the Riva is different. Riva is much more like tropical, papaya, guava, warmer apples, like red apples. It's very different. And then Livermore
is much more green apple.
Yeah. Which, you know,
lemon zest.
Yeah, and that has to do with the hang time of the vine and just the different climates and terroir that the vineyards are in. But I think it's interesting because I think some people, because of the heat in Livermore, would almost assume the opposite. But that's not the case.
Yeah, and that's because in Livermore we have that big diurnal swing. So we do get hot in the daytime, a lot of heat during the summer. I mean, most days this summer were between 75 and 95. I think we only, until this weekend, only had 1 day over 100 up until this past weekend where we had like 5 days. Not good. But in Livermore, because of that cold night temperature that we get from San Francisco, that really is what retains that acidity and brings in those lemon zest flavors, those green apple flavors, rather than that tropical flavor that you're going to get in the Monterey wines. And that's because there's not a huge diurnal shift. You know, it gets hot, it gets cold, but it's a much smaller jump in temperature. It's like always around 50 to 60, and then maybe jumps a little bit of time to 80, and then goes back down to 50 or 60. Whereas in Livermore, like I think last week it was 95 during the day, and then 32 when I went to work at 6 a.m. 32. I'm like, it's freezing. Like, what is happening?
Wow.
Like, that's
crazy.
Like a 60 degree
diurnal. Wow, that's crazy.
Which is really excellent for fine winemaking.
It really is, yeah. And so is Arroyo Seco's climate. So they're just different, and they're going to produce different flavors that are really unique to each of the different wines. And that's why I think Chardonnay is also really special, because you can grow it in a lot of different places and come out with something spectacularly different.
Wonderful. Well, everybody take a sip if you haven't already, and a sniff. I'm going to hit Aly and Nikki with a bunch of questions. We may go over by about 5 minutes. Hope you stay and join us. It's still only 10 to 5, so we have some time, but I think we've got a lot of good questions coming in. One quick one, a reader wants to know, we were having friends over for this tasting but had to cancel because of the smoke. Should I take the wine out of the fridge until we are able to have our tasting with them? Or is it okay to just leave it in there?
It's good to leave it in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keep it fresh. Keep it
Yeah.
cold.
I would make sure you don't get it hot is all. So keeping it cold is good.
Nothing wrong with keeping it cold. Okay.
We'll put ours back in the fridge after this.
Yeah, because
They're a little warm now. Yeah.
One person says, let's see, do you have an opinion on cork versus screw top? I am seeing many more Sauvignon Blancs with screw caps. Does it impact the flavor?
No. Well,
So it does if you age the wine. So if
Yeah,
it's a
it
wine
depends
that
on
you're
what you want.
planning to age, I would say go for a cork closure. If it's a wine that you're planning to open tomorrow night with your friends, I would say go with the screw cap. If you know the wine is good, you've tried it before and it switched to a screw cap, get it, because it's going to taste the same and it's going to be way easier to open and way easier to enjoy.
we just put our morning fog in a screw cap actually.
Morning
so,
fog Chardonnay.
For
Yeah,
the
we
first
just put our
time,
morning-
yeah?
Yeah.
Yep, we just changed from a cork closure to a screw cap because it is so much easier to open. It's really made to be enjoyed upon vintage, release.
Yeah, right away.
I'm sure you could age it and be beautiful.
Yes.
But that's really the purpose of the wine. And yeah, we just believe in it. And I think it also eliminates the question of, is this wine going to be corked? So we have worked really hard and really closely with cork suppliers to find, TCA or, non-cork.
Yeah.
Corks that can
it's just a
withstand
wine
it,
flaw
but-
that can happen because the cork has something wrong with it.
Right.
So
And
we
it's
work
pretty
really
rare,
hard.
right? Like 5% or less?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So with a screw cap, you don't have that issue.
No percent.
No percent, exactly.
Yeah.
5 to 10, I think I heard a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody says, pardon my ignorance, how many acres does it take to make 1,000 cases of wine?
Okay, so
Nah.
math. 1,000 cases of wine. Probably like 5 acres. Not many.
Yeah. And for context, we farm about 2,500 acres. And
Correct.
Nikki manages all of those vineyards between Livermore to Arroyo Seco. So she is on the go. That's why she's so thin. She's constantly running up and down the
I'm
road.
constantly forgetting to eat lunch.
Oh, totally, I bet. Somebody wants to know, and I forgive me if you answered this, but somebody wants to know, what type of oak barrels do you use for Riva Ranch, and how long do they age in barrels? Percentage of each?
So the Riva is about 50% new oak, 50% used oak within the 90% oak for the total bottle. So 90% oak total, 50% is new, 50% is used, and it's about 50-50 French and American. So with Eric's no oak, with Nikki's no oak. So we do a lot of new French oak, we do a lot of new American oak, and a lot of second use, a lot of third use. And then after third use, we get rid of the barrels, or we hold them onto them for neutral, just in case we absolutely need extra space. But typically we try and get rid of a lot of the fourth use barrels.
Sure. Oh yeah. Okay. One person wants to know, have any of your wines survived all 5 generations?
Chardonnay. Oh, no.
Yeah. Oh, no. Probably Zinfandel, maybe Cabernet. Yeah, Cabernet Sauvignon and Zinfandel, and Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon.
Okay, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see.
Probably not.
Where does your morning fog fit? Is it more or less smooth than your Riva Ranch?
So it's a little less oaky. So it's going to be kind of right in between the Eric's and the Riva. So you have, like a nice fresh acidic one, and then you're going to have a really fresh acidic, but like with a little bit of oak in there, just to give it a little bit more creaminess, a little bit more structure,
A
body.
little heavier weight on the palate.
Correct. Yeah. And then you have the Riva that's like kind of chasing that beautiful big buttery Chardonnay, but still with that really great fruit impact.
And Riva and Morning are really widely available and accessible,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, you can find them at Safeway.
Oh yeah, those
Total
are our
Wine,
two most
Whole
popular wines
Foods.
out of every wine we make. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Looks like just two more questions. Does anyone actually live in the house on the Wente course?
Oh yes, she does.
That is our CEO and our aunt, Carolyn Wente.
Carolyn.
Yeah, Carolyn and her husband Buckley, and they live there. And our cousin Bucky
Grew up there.
but he is now in Dallas.
Okay.
Selling wine, not our wine, but maybe
Okay.
someday.
Maybe someday Bucky will come
Yeah.
back, right?
Yeah, we hope so.
He's the only one. We've got our eye on him.
Yeah.
We'll reel him in, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I lied. Looks like two more questions. Does the Wente have a library of old vintages? If so, what's the oldest?
We have a library of old vintages for sure. I believe we still have a 1932 Sauvignon Blanc and maybe a 1936 Chardonnay. I have a 1959 Chardonnay in my cellar. Not that I'm ever going to drink. It's
And
brown.
people return them to us sometimes. It's actually really interesting. We get people who reach out who are going through their cellar who notice, oh my goodness, I have this incredibly old Wente. Like, would you guys like it back? So we always
Whoa,
say yes.
that person is
Sometimes-
generous.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know, it's so amazing.
generous.
So you never know what we might have tomorrow. It's
I know.
actually pretty incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. I think this is a really neat question to end on. What do you see for Wente 20 years from now? Where do you see yourselves in 20 years?
I personally see us just enhancing, growing, and becoming much more like big in the world of sustainability. I think that for me is a super big passion point, and I know for Nikki too. And as future leaders, that's something that we're really focused on.
Yeah.
I also see, just like really amazing things for us in inclusion and being, really thoughtful about everything that has to do with our customer to our employee base, and really, standing behind something. So I think we're doing a lot of work, and it's going to be really exciting, I think, what the future holds for us.
Yeah, I see Aly as CEO and me as her secretary, personal assistant.
Chief winemaker, maybe.
Yeah, maybe I'll be the winemaker
Sorry,
slash
Carl.
Aly's personal assistant.
Little sister for you.
Just running after her with a notepad, making sure she has everything written down.
Well, wonderful, you guys. Thank you to both of you so much for taking the time to do this with us. And thank you for our readers for being here too. Be sure to join us for our next Newsroom at Home event, Education in the Bay Area. It'll be a discussion on how our education system is performing roughly 1 month into the most unusual school year, perhaps in history. I can say that as the mother of a 9-year-old in 4th grade. Listen in on September 10th at 10 a.m. Again, that's September 10th at 10 a.m. Back to you, Charnel. Charnel, there you go.
Thank you so much, Nikki and Aly and Jessica, for hosting. Like Jessica said, we will be hosting our next event September 10th. So please be sure to join us for that. And thank you all again. I hope you have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.